Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Breaking Brews Podcast, a podcast focused on the business side of beer and what's driving today's thriving craft beer industry. Whether you're one of the thousands of people making craft beer what it is today, or just love great beer and want to know more about it, this show is here to cover everything from sales, marketing, branding, culture, and much, much more. The Breaking Brews Podcast delivers real-life scenarios and experiences from industry professionals. To tap into more great beer content, visit breakingbrews.com today. And now, the moment you've been waiting for. Let's get this session started. Ooh, boys and girls, it is time once again to gather round for the Breaking Brews Podcast. I'm your host, Jason Cercone. You are tuned in to Session 3, and we are smack dab in the middle of release week. 5 new sessions in 5 days to kick off the show. And today we are talking brewery production management with Lauren Baker, the production manager at North Country Brewing Company in Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania, about an hour outside of the city of Pittsburgh. And what we learned from Lauren is that her role is very, very multifaceted. She does a lot of things on a daily basis to grow the North Country brand, from managing production to moving kegs around to helping grow brewpub business. You name it. There's a lot on her plate on a daily basis, and it was really cool to hear her story and how she's evolved in the beer industry. Lauren moved to Texas, and she found her way into the beer world there, working as a sales rep and working as a bartender. And she's worked her way up to now being the production manager, coming back home to the Slippery Rock / Pittsburgh area and getting the job with North Country. And she's been there for a couple years now, doing some tremendous things with that brand. And you're going to get to hear about it from A to Z from Lauren today. Before we start the show, I'd like to give a shout out to our release week sponsor, Caliente Pizza and Draft House. For all of our Pittsburgh listeners, you've most likely visited one of the 5 Caliente Pizza and Draft House locations, whether it be Bloomfield, Aspinwall, Hampton Township, Mount Lebanon, or their new location in Monroeville. They've been growing a great pizza empire across the city of Pittsburgh, and they're on their way, as we speak, to Las Vegas to once again compete in the International Pizza Expo. Hopefully, within the next week or so, we are going to be hearing about another World Pizza Championship title being claimed by the crew at Caliente Pizza and Draft House. If you haven't been out to check them out, visit any of their 5 locations. They got a great beer selection, tremendous pizza. I'm going to go on record right now, the spinach and feta, world-class pie. Definitely sink your teeth into that while you're there. But don't sleep on some of the other items on the menu either. The chicken wings are freaking awesome. Hawaiian barbecue, 4 days. Lots of reasons to visit Caliente Pizza and Draft House. Want to wish them the best of luck as they travel to Las Vegas. Safe travels and bring back another title for best pizza in the go. If you want to watch how things unfold, I know they plan on posting some videos on Facebook Live, so follow their Facebook page, Caliente Pizza and Draft House, and check out Vegas over the upcoming few days. Now, shifting gears back to brewery production management and our conversation with Lauren Baker of North Country Brewing, wanted to let you guys know where you can find North Country Brewing on the interwebs. NorthCountryBrewing.com is the website. You can find them on Twitter at NC Brewing Co., on Instagram at North Country Brewing. And on that note, I'm going to step aside and let you guys dive in to session number 3 of the Breaking Brews Podcast. All right, so here we are, ladies and gentlemen. We are at North Country Brewing in beautiful, lovely, thriving Slippery Rock, Pennsylvania. And today we are joined by Miss Lauren Baker. And Lauren, what's up?
Hey, Jason, thanks for having me.
Happy to have you on. So Lauren and I are going to talk about what she does here at North Country Brewing. She is the production manager. We're going to get into what that role entails and talk about how she contributes to the growth and evolution and development of the things that happen here at North Country Brewing. So you're going to learn a lot about what's happening up here at Slippery Rock, about their beer, about their processes, and ultimately how they are making a difference in the craft beer world here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and beyond. Before we get into that, Lauren, let's learn a little bit more about you. So tell us about yourself, your background, and your ultimate rise to power in the craft beer world.
Yeah, I started bartending, at beer at my local bar in Cranberry, where I grew up. I grew up with my dad. He was never a drinker, and so I never was really like exposed to, it wasn't like he brought around, craft beer or anything like that. But my mom was actually, and I remember growlers. That was like the first thing. Oh, you can get a jug of beer. That's when I was in college. I worked at BRGR, had a lot of different taps there. I really always, like the jobs that I was in, I always really wanted to be very knowledgeable in what I was doing. So bartending, there's only so much. But the beer was really interesting to me because we did have a lot of like older guys that would come in and they knew specifically where that beer was brewed, what ingredients, what kind of hops it had. And that was really intriguing to me. I didn't know that I could like dive so deep into all of that. So that became fun to me, learning about the beer and then educating new customers that were coming in. Craft beer wasn't prevalent in Butler County at the time. So a lot of like new beer drinkers were coming in and not knowing much about craft beer, but saw all those taps and it could be kind of intimidating not knowing what you wanted. So I really liked sampling people on different products and getting them to learn a little bit about what they were drinking. So I did that for a little bit, and then I ended up graduating with a film degree, which I'm obviously not using. I worked for Fox 53 for a little bit out of college, and ultimately moved to Texas and worked in TV and radio there for a while. I wasn't in the service industry for a while, but I paid attention to what like local breweries were in the area at the time. And Texas, craft beer was really just starting to kick off there. That was really when we saw the boom, 2013.
Right.
That's really when we saw the boom across, the country. But for Texas, they had Shiner and Lone Star. That was like the two big ones down there. And then you started seeing these smaller guys popping up. So that was cool to kind of see those brands develop there through the years and what I was really kind of introduced to at first. And I got bored with TV and radio, so I started bartending again to make some extra money on the side. And again, like being reintroduced to new craft beer, I worked at a bar in downtown Dallas, and I started meeting sales reps from other breweries. Didn't even realize that was a job, I remember like instances of people meeting me as a sales rep and being like, wow, your job must be so cool. And I was that person. I saw the Ballast Point rep come in and he was selling us liquor and beer. And I wanted to do that. And I had a manager there who thought that I would be really good at it. And he helped me look into different breweries that might be hiring and was a good reference to me. And nobody in the area was really hiring. No local breweries were hiring. I kind of gave up on the idea for a little bit, but it kept checking online, and I found a job posting from Upslope Brewing out of Boulder, Colorado. They were hiring a Texas sales rep. And I was not familiar with their beer, and I didn't know anything about them, but I thought Colorado was really cool. And I really liked their branding. It really stood out to me. So I did some research on them, and I sent them a resume and had a phone interview, had a Skype interview. Eventually, the sales manager came down and interviewed me in person, and I got the job. And it was just crazy. I didn't know what I was getting into. I really didn't. I had some ideas based off of what I had talked to people about, but I really had no idea. I didn't know much about the 3-tier system. I didn't know much about brewing beer. All of that education came after kind of getting into the industry. So they did kind of take a chance on me, just being a bartender, not really, knowing a whole lot.
There's a lot to be said for that, though. I think that you haven't picked up any bad habits yet. And not to say that any bad habits could really have been developed at that, I'd say, I guess it's an earlier stage in the whole craft beer boom. So maybe they just saw someone that was passionate about wanting to go down this road and felt they could work with you and Obviously, it's worked out very well
Yeah,
for you.
it has. It's been great. And I am very thankful for them giving me that opportunity because I obviously wouldn't be here without that. So yeah, I started working for them, which was really cool. Upslope, even a lot of the employees there are still friends of mine. It's great to go out to the Great American Beer Festival and run into all of them, or at the Craft Brewers Conference and run into them there. This industry is just one giant community. Actually, Payne, our cellarman, he used to work at Boulder Beer Company, and we have mutual friends at Upslope.
Oh, cool.
So it is a very small world. But yeah, my experience in Texas working, I worked for Upslope Brewing. I moved to Austin and worked for Carbach Brewing. They're based out of Houston. They ended up selling to Budweiser.
Okay.
When I left Carbach, I went and worked for the Collective Brewing Project, which is a sour, funky brewery, and they were self-distributing. So within a few years, I had some experience at 3 very different breweries with different goals, with different, business models. So I feel like it gave me an opportunity to kind of see into a couple different sides of, every brewery is so different, and you really can see that within those three brands themselves. Carbach Texas has a lot of very big distributors. So that was something that was very different from Pennsylvania. Being in another state, working in the beer industry, you have to learn all the laws that go into what you're doing because every state is so different. But yeah, it was a great opportunity. I think the industry down there, they just embraced me so much, and I developed so many good friendships there. Bar owners, other sales reps, brewers, people who ran beer festivals. It is just one giant community, and I fell in love with it.
Yeah.
You do go through periods of times where it is really hard drinking. You drink a lot in this industry, and you have to learn how to responsibly drink.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of people that do not realize how important that is. I think when I first started working in the beer industry, my family didn't really understand. They were like just seeing me posting pictures of beer all the time and were like, oh no, she's an alcoholic. But really, I think with craft beer, we have more responsible drinkers now than ever. You very rarely see somebody pounding beers at a brewery tap room as opposed to going to a bar and drinking 10 Miller Lights.
Right.
And that was something that I had to learn very, very early on is you have to, your job is to drive around and sell beer, go to different events. You have to constantly, make sure that you're responsible and coherent and, making sure the people around you are the same way. You don't ever want to put somebody's life at risk. So that is
Indeed.
a big part of our industry that I think some people still don't understand. And you kind of just figure that out through experience. Some people can't handle it.
And it's funny, like when I talk to brewery owners and I talk to brewers and work in the tap rooms, they've always said how people are for. It speaks a lot to the product and what it's for and what it stands for versus, like you said, you're not just sitting down to pound a bunch of domestic beer in the hopes of forgetting the evening or whatever the case may be. But to the opposite side of that, or to flip the coin, it still boggles my mind when some communities give a new brewery that wants to come in a bunch of shit because, oh my God, you're going to be promoting drunkenness and people are going to be stumbling around in my neighborhood. And no, I think we're starting to see less and less of that as this whole thing continues to grow. But there's still some communities that think in that very antiquated way, and it sucks.
Yeah, it falls on people in the beer industry to show people outside of our industry how important it is to be responsible. We have to show them that that is not a part of our culture. Our culture is to drink good beer, not excessively. And we are very community driven. You know, we have here on Fridays at our production facility, we have Yappy Hour. And that started with just a couple people hanging out. They brought their dogs over. We have a big neighborhood over here with a lot of professors from the university and their families. And I know there's a lot of people that are against having kids in breweries and maybe dogs. But here on Fridays in the summertime, we have kids and we have dogs, and it's nice to see families hanging out for a few hours after, you know, work or, you know, at the end of the day and having a few beers and then walking home. You know, they're close enough. So we don't ever, you know, promote like, oh, hey, you know, we're going to run specials so you can drink as many as you can. But, you know, we just want people to be able to come here and drink good beer and do it responsibly. And that's what we're really all about.
There's a time and place for that. I've never really ran across a brewery that's felt that's their place to do. It's a totally different dynamic.
I feel like you see more people accidentally getting drunk.
Yeah.
Oh no, I had 3 beers and I accidentally got drunk because I didn't realize what the ABV was.
Guilty. Yeah, that can happen. And like you said, it's not usually the object of, like, you think back to people like college, you know, you're going out to get torn apart. You're probably not going to a brewery where you're going to spend $7 on a pint of something that's very quality and you sip and you enjoy and you appreciate it for all its different flavors and complexities. It's a different dynamic. So again, those places exist for a good reason, and breweries, I don't think they'll ever.
Well, being in a college town, you know, North Country, Slippery Rock was a dry town before our brew pub opened. Our owners, Bob and Jody, worked on that location for years, hoping that they would pass laws to end that.
Yeah.
And so eventually it did. I believe that was 2005. College kids still managed to find ways to drink around here. But people always ask us, oh, you're in a college town. Does that mean that you always have a bunch of college kids getting drunk at the pub? And that's just not the type of atmosphere that we have over there. We are right near campus, but I very rarely ever see a bunch of college kids hanging around on there.
Yeah.
We do have a lot of townies that hang out there, and that's good that they feel comfortable. They have their spot in the area. You know, there is a college bar that's doing the late night $1 PBRs or whatever, and that is their crowd, and that's fine. But I never feel like I have to kind of avoid the pub on certain nights because we have a bunch of college kids in the area.
Yeah.
But I also do think that the pub helps breed a generation of craft beer drinkers, where if we have more college kids coming to the pub to drink craft beer, they're probably less likely to be binge drinking somewhere out there. They are developing more of an appreciation for good beer and drinking, you know, more responsibly than, you know, maybe their parents that went to the same college and didn't have the pub, that they just weren't exposed to craft beer at that time. So I think it does kind of open up a different way of drinking for younger adults, which is kind of cool.
I agree. Absolutely. I know I've talked to some bottle shop owners that have colleges nearby, and they said they'll still buy the domestic brands because, again, you might want to experiment a little bit more, but you're still in college. You're still living life on a budget for the most part. But they'll also buy a couple bombers, and they'll put those in the back of the fridge for themselves, and they're not sharing that beer with the rest. You're absolutely on track with that one. Well, let's talk a little bit more about North Country. We're going to talk more about what you do on a daily basis, but give our listeners some lowdown about your brewery here, some of the background of your brewery's evolution, how things got started, the beers you produce, projects. The floor is yours.
Yeah. Bob and Jody are our owners, and they met working at the Harmony Inn. And the building, the pub, was originally a furniture and coffin making business. It had gone through several different things. I believe it was an inn at one point. They started making coffins, maybe during the Civil War. And so there's a lot of history in that building. They purchased that building on Main Street with the hopes of turning it into a pub, you know, once the laws had changed to make Slippery Rock not a dry county anymore. They lived upstairs and worked on that building. And Bob is a very interesting person. He loves revitalizing things and reusing different ingredients and stuff. So all of the wood in the pub, all the tables that we have are repurposed from different things. The cooler downstairs where our cooler is in the basement, that's where they were, undertaking bodies, and they had found embalming fluid and rouge and stuff down there. The door to the actual brewery is so it has a lot of history there, which is really, a big aspect of our company is investing in the history that we have around here, and being able to show that off. They had been brewing at the pub for several years and thought about starting to brew on a larger scale, packaging the beer and distributing it. So they had a team of people that were helping them to open this location that we're at right now on Arrowhead Drive. We're about a mile outside of Slippery Rock right now. And so at that time, the Harmony Inn was up for sale as well. And wasn't really, they had no intentions of buying another restaurant, but they had history with the Harmony Inn, and they figured they could probably fix it up a little bit and do something with it. So they did purchase it at the same time they were trying to get this open. So everything was kind of spread out at once. It wasn't the best timing, but when things fall into place like that, the place that they met, the place that they worked at,
hard to pass that up.
They couldn't pass it up.
Right.
And I don't blame them. It's a beautiful, beautiful location. Again, has so much history. From what I understand, a lot of ghosts, which is cool.
Ghosts. Yeah, I guess I could see that with...
Drink beer with ghosts.
Yeah.
That's an attraction.
Wow, did you know Americans consume an average of 350 slices of pizza every second? That is just freaking nuts. But it shows the United States loves its pie. And with 3 billion pizzas sold nationwide every year, it's a business that isn't going anywhere. If you're an entrepreneur who aspires to build a pizza empire, pick up a copy of The Pizza Equation, a new book by Nick Bogaz, owner of Caliente Pizza and Draft House in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Follow Nick's rise through the corporate pizza landscape all the way up to taking a major leap that has resulted in the opening of 5 successful pizza locations in less than 7 years. Has gained him accolades from pizza aficionados and industry leaders throughout the world. The Pizza Equation is available on Amazon.com as we speak. Simply jump over to Amazon and search The Pizza Equation and pick up your copy today.
Yeah, so at that time, there was just a lot going on. And so they started packaging their beer. They just kind of picked the best-selling beers that they had over at the pub. Obviously, Firehouse Red is our #1 beer. That's our flagship. Paleo IPA, Stinky Hippie Pale Ale, Bucksnort Stout. Those beers were designed to package, brew on a larger scale here. So we have a 7-barrel system over at the pub and then a 30-barrel system here. A lot of the equipment was, brought in from other places. And then they had kind of expanded their brewing team a little bit at the time. John Barnes, who is our current head brewer, and his son, Austin Barnes, who is our pub brewer. Their family owned the Harmony Inn. So when the McCaffertys bought that over, they came to work for them here. John started out working over at the pub doing some brewing and cellaring stuff, and then he eventually became production manager. Austin started out cleaning kegs and, eventually became a cellarman, and just in this past year started brewing over at the pub, and he's just done an amazing job. He's 22 years old.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, his last year he turned 21 about a week before we went to the Great American Beer Fest.
Yeah, now that's some kick-ass timing.
And he checked in like his 1,000th beer while we were there too. So for somebody so young to have so much knowledge has been a really great opportunity for North Country. And they both, John and Austin, have been with the company for several years now. So they are very loyal and have done a really good job. They're very hard workers. So people have come and gone throughout the years, but really the team we have now is really, really cool. And Bob and Jody, they also have a farm. We have 4 locations total. Our spent grain from the breweries from the pub and from here go to his cattle at the farm. All of our prep waste from the kitchens goes to, and the aquaponics goes to his pigs. So we've used blueberries, lavender, heather, maple syrup, a lot of different ingredients from the farm, and tried to incorporate that into what we do with the beer and the food. It's been really nice to have that as a resource, and kind of goes back into the idea of the sustainability. Our industry can be very wasteful, and we try to do our best to cut that waste. So having the farm to be able to source a lot of ingredients and take our some of our waste there really helps. But that is a big part of who the McCaffertys are. They, a lot of people, there was somebody asking me about our owner. Oh, is he the one that has a private jet that goes to Florida or something? And I was like, he's literally shoveling shit right now. So I don't think he's on a private jet to Florida, but he is a very modest person and has always been very involved in the business and what we're doing. They're the only owners. We don't have any other investors, which I've worked with some companies that have had 20 investors, and it really makes it hard to make moves sometimes.
Right.
So we are very lucky in the sense that our owners are, they're the only ones there, and they're a call away, a text away. If we have any questions, if we need anything, they're here at all of our meetings to make those decisions. So it is more of a family than a business. Bob is also very involved in, he was on the board of directors for the Brewers of Pennsylvania for several years. He is a part of the Pennsylvania Restaurant Association, which he has made several trips to Harrisburg and Washington, D.C. recently, kind of dealing with healthcare. It's very hard to provide affordable healthcare we have 180 employees between the 3 locations. So he's been, making trips out there to fight for us to have affordable healthcare. So we definitely have some really good owners that really care about what we're doing, care about us as people, care about the environment, which really kind of hits all the points that I care about, which is great. We had a Christmas party here last week, and they hand-bagged and wrote notes for all the employees. They got us all little keychain breathalyzers, which is very appropriate.
Well played.
Very appropriate. Yeah, it's great to have a company that really cares about you, and I can't say that was something that I was lacking with all of the previous companies that I worked for, but I've definitely worked for some companies that you're just a number, you're a worker ant to them.
Yeah.
And that's not what our industry is about. So I have a lot of appreciation for North Country. Bob, again, took a chance on me. He invited me to move up here. This was summer of 2017. He invited me to move back up to Butler County from Texas and be his sales manager. I kind of expressed to him, I'm really kind of sick of sales, but I'm ready to move back home, and I would really like to work for North Country, so I did it. Within a few months, the production manager position opened up, and he offered that to me. I had no experience on the production side. He knew that I was interested in getting there, learning more about brewing and all the aspects of packaging and stuff like that. So he was already very open to me being involved in those things. So to offer me the production manager job, I don't want to say it was risky.
Yeah, don't condemn yourself here. Shit.
Yeah, I don't want to say that, it was a bad idea, but I appreciate that he took a chance to give me that opportunity. He saw that I was a very motivated worker and was looking into developing programs for the company and being more efficient. So that opportunity popped up a little over a year ago. I've been in this position now in North Country. A lot of things have gone on in the last year, and we just all feel like progress and positivity within this company right now, which really helps when you have owners that are very supportive of what you're trying to do. They don't hold us back from our ideas, and They don't micromanage us. So they're giving us the opportunities to be creative. And within this market right now, and I think that's where a lot of like breweries are kind of looking at like what's happening. Like it is kind of scary when we hear about local breweries closing down or local craft beer bars closing down, and we keep talking about a bubble that apparently will burst. But I think at the end of the day, you just have to find ways to navigate the market and be creative and unique. We're very open to breweries opening around us, but what is going to set us apart from them? And I think North Country is still doing a good job of trying to be unique. If you come to our pub and, have our food and have our beer and have the experience of being in such a cool place, it definitely is a little bit different from some of the other breweries that you would go to in the area that have a completely different style.
Yeah, I think you really hit on something strong there, because as the brewery scene continues to grow and more towns start to see more of them open up, I think loyalty is a completely different thing these days, and people aren't going to necessarily stay loyal to you all the time. They're going to try something new. They're going to add variety to their life. But if you give them a good experience and something they remember, they're going to come back.
Yeah.
It's just not a question of whether they're going to come back every day or every weekend. But if you give them a bad experience, on the other hand, chances are you're never going to see them again, because there's so many out there.
One star Yelp review.
Yeah. And that's something we should probably point out too, that if you're basing your decision on whether to go visit a brew pub or a tap room based off of what you read on Facebook or Yelp, you're doing it wrong. Mm-hmm. Because one person's bad experience is not necessarily what you're going to experience when you go. And this is something that's universal, in my opinion. This is across the board, no matter what town you live in and where you're hearing this podcast. Don't let a computer be your guide. Go check it out for yourself. And if you have the same experience, at least and you gave it a shot, because you could be missing out on something super cool. So yeah, I think that if the more that breweries are trying to make themselves stand out, you don't need to necessarily fear competition and fear more breweries popping up around you, because everybody's going to deliver something different.
Yeah, and embracing each other's uniqueness. I think our community around here comes in, they're not from the area, and they're checking us out first. Well, where else should we go? Well, I can give you a list of, 10 breweries right now within 30 minutes that you could easily drive to, and I can tell you what beer to drink and what food to get. I try to go support our local breweries as much as possible. One, to see what everybody's doing, but two, also to, have some good suggestions and be aware of what's happening around us. We all work together really well, and then everyone being so unique, I think that was a big part of the whole hazy beer craze. There were breweries out there that were like, we're not making this beer, we're not doing this. But that kind of makes them unique, because you are going to have craft beer drinkers that are like, I don't want to go to a bar that has all hazy beers. I want something else. I'm the dark beer drinker that, I'll go to Dancing Gnome and I'll be like, all right, what one beer do they have on that I'm into drinking? Because I'll drink it.
You're the one that's standing out in the crowd.
Yeah. I'll drink them. I'll drink everything once, but... Yeah. But for us here, we have Mug Club member number 1 who's been with us since the beginning of time. This couple, they're just so nice. They come in almost every day. I see them eating lunch there almost every day. They know every beer that's come out. They gave everybody who works for North Country a Christmas card. It's just nice to see these people that are in a market that is not loyal. Slippery Rock kind of isn't like the rest of the market.
Yeah,
we have a lot of loyalty here still.
To see that old school loyalty is refreshing.
Yeah, 14 years of being around, and we have people that have been here since the beginning. So, and
it speaks a lot to what you guys have grown here and what you've built.
We want everybody to feel comfortable and not intimidated as well. You come in and you've never been there before. We want you to have an easygoing experience. And even here, we have just a little small tap room that I'm sure if somebody that's never been here before walks in, they see kids and dogs, and we're using plastic cups because of the kids and dogs. And, it may not be what they would expect from a brewery tap room, but for our locals, they absolutely love it. And that's something that I've had to kind of get used to is I'm not in a city.
Yeah.
We don't have to, but we do things a little bit differently here because a lot of things that work in the city don't work for us. And we want our locations to be something that our locals are very, are happy with because they are the loyal ones, but also we want to be welcoming to the people that have never been here before. And with that, North Country has a big story. That's just, we're involved in so many different things. We do a lot of charity work. A lot of our beers are a portion of the proceeds. So Firehouse Red, we do our pub sales. 5% of that goes to our local fire department, and that's something that they've been doing forever now. They've given a lot of money to them. Bucko Blonde, every year we donate $5,000 to Make-A-Wish Foundation to send a child to wherever they want to go. I think this year was Legoland. But that's a big part of our culture. I think that's a big part of craft beer in general. And if it's not a part of a craft brewery's culture, then they need to get on that because that's something that is very easy for us. We're actually picking up our kegs from East End today for the Resilience IPA, the Sierra Nevada fundraiser. Mm-hmm. That was something that as soon as Scott Smith posted about that, I knew we wanted to jump on that because how could we not? It's something that we can definitely, be a part of. We did a fundraiser here for the Tree of Life. We did an event, and really our community is always interested in how we're raising money and what we're doing. It gives them another reason to come in and drink beer and support us by supporting another cause as well. We have some big plans for different events next year as well to raise some money. So our beer fest raises some money for our community as well.
So what are some of the aspects of your day-to-day role here at North Country?
So my role is not very defined level of this is what I do. And that is kind of what I like about, we have a smaller team here. We are all willing to jump in and we know things that need to get done. If there's something that needs to get done, we do it. My main tasks are I do the administrative money stuff, seeing what money is coming in, what's going out. I order most of the ingredients. John handles our malt and our hops, but fruit, any of our pack tech stuff, that's something that I have to keep an eye on. I do our inventory every week of our beer. We also have our tap room, and that's been something that I've been trying to pull people in to help me out with that a little bit, where we were just open for 3 hours on Fridays, and now we're open 3 days a week for 8 hours a day. So that's been a big project there too, is just opening up our location to our community and seeing what they're interested in doing. We have trivia nights, we have open mic night, we do fundraisers and stuff. So trying to develop our doing things for our community is something that I'm deeply involved in. Our sales team, we have 2 sales reps right now, one covering Southwest, and they both do a really good job. They're just slaying in Firehouse and Old 29er and our sours and stuff, and so I do manage them. So keeping them updated on, you can have people out there selling your beer, but if they don't know what they can sell and they don't know what's coming out, or they don't have the tools and resources that they need to go do their job, those are things that I'm in charge of, communication with them. So when we have a new beer coming out, I need a logo, I need a sales sheet, I need the information. So I'm trying to coordinate all of that stuff from our brewers, our graphic design people. So our branding is something that I'm very involved in. We're constantly developing new beer labels. So that all gets passed through me first. We try to decide on things collectively. Yeah, just day-to-day things. We always have different things that are popping up.
Do you have any trouble balancing all of this?
Yes and no. I feel like there is always a flow of something that needs done. There's always stuff that needs done, and every day I feel like I don't have enough hours in the day to get everything done. So you always have to have your priority list. I come in and I have too many Post-it notes.
I'm noticing you're big on the Post-it
I
notes.
have too many Post-it notes. Most of those are passwords because I can't remember anything. But I usually come in and look at my day and my week and say, okay, what do I need to do today? So this week I need to order floor mats. I need to order pack tech toppers. I need to find pallets. Those are kind of my odds and ends list for the week. And then, paperwork, we do the taxes, we do brand registration with the TTB. We are starting to plan our brew fest for next year. I'm planning a beer fest for April with the Butler County Brewers Co-op. We always have little projects everywhere. Sometimes I'm just behind the bar cleaning things because I need to get stuff organized. And then we've had days where I will clean kegs and keg beer up because we just get some stuff done, stand on the canning line for a little bit. Really know everybody here should be able to do a lot of different jobs. So I put orders together. I'm the main communication between the wholesalers and here. So when a distributor wants to order beer, they're ordering it through me. I have to go through the process of making sure we have their order in inventory. If we don't have it in inventory, how quickly can we get it in inventory? And then making sure that they're invoiced correctly, all that kind of stuff. So there is a lot of administrative aspect to my job, and I feel like the balancing part really goes into needing to be organized. I'm big on emailing.
Yeah.
I have some people, I probably drive them crazy sometimes, but if they call me or text me or even just in passing say, hey, can you do this? Or hey, can we do this? If it's not in an email, I might forget about it, or, I need it to be physically in front of my face. I feel bad for all of my friends that try to text me all the time, and then I text them like 5 days later because my phone is filled with work texts. So
what Lord is not telling you is that is how this podcast came together.
Yeah, exactly.
I had to be send like a Bueller message and go, oh shit.
Oh, sorry I didn't talk to you for 2 weeks. I'm just seeing your message now.
But here we are, so it all worked out.
Yeah, that is a hard part about it. My job involves communicating with a lot of different people, and I feel like that's been one of my strengths throughout the year is being able to communicate. And that's just fine. You have a problem. Hey, we had a problem with something with it. Who do I need to reach out to? And so being a production manager, you need somebody who is willing to wear a lot of different hats, somebody that is able to communicate to the restaurants, the sales team, any kind of contractors we have, the brewers, the production team, our aquaponics program, the owners. And at the end of the day, be able to sit down and have a beer and not lose my mind over the fact that beer tastes old or something. That's always, I have a hard time going out to places sometimes and not being so in work mode still. This job is just, it's forever. When I go home, I still have a lot of things to work on and people constantly calling me and texting me. I feel like that's the hardest part of this industry sometime, and being on this side is finding that balance between work and your home life. I'm so grateful that I enjoy my job so much that I don't mind when people are calling me or texting me late at night or early in the morning or on the weekends because, it is a part of my job, but I really do enjoy it. Saturday, I got a call from the restaurant that 2 of our beers were pouring foamy at the pub, and it was graduation day and it's super busy and I was in my bathrobe, just got out of the shower. My boyfriend's mad at me because I'm on the phone about work on Saturday afternoon, but you're always on call for stuff like that. But you have to always be able to help, or at least pull in somebody that can help. I wasn't able to make it up here to look at the problem. I have a guy in town that lives here who was willing to put on his shoes and go over and check it out. So it helps having a team that is really strong and willing to jump at helping when you have issues or when you have different projects that they probably don't want to do, but they're always willing to help. It makes my job so much easier having a good team like that.
All right, so I hit the Google machine last night. I came across a lot of breweries in a lot of different cities across the country that are hiring production managers. So, say I were to apply for one of these jobs, what's some good advice you would give me going into this?
The biggest thing that worried me whenever I first was starting the job, besides not knowing much about what my role was going to be, is the fact that I didn't know much about brewing. I was worried. I'm like, I'm not a brewer. And how are these guys ever going to respect me telling them what to do every day if I don't know what to do? So it did take me a little bit. I was constantly asking questions. How does this work? How long does it take for you to clean a tank? How long does it take you to filter 30 barrels worth of beer? All of that knowledge, and I am still learning everything. Every day I'm asking them questions about how things work. And that's a big part of it. Every brewery is so different. If I was a production manager at a different brewery, I would have to relearn all of this because they have a different system. They have different types of beer. I think for anybody looking into getting a position like this, the main thing is you need to be organized. You have to be able to schedule out. Our production schedule is something that was hard for us to work on in the beginning, but it is crucial to what we're doing. You have to have a schedule because you need to know when your beer is going to be ready. When is it going to be brewed? When is it going to be ready? When can people buy it? You're not making any money until people are buying your product. So, you think that, okay, well, we'll brew the beer and whenever it's ready, it's ready. Well, that's not really how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, the aspect of things, you have to understand how long it's going to take. And then you have to be prepared for things to happen, things to go wrong. Breweries are Murphy Law buildings sometimes. We have had times where we've come in and our chiller went down and our beer was too warm to be able to package. We've had times where the beer wasn't done fermenting or, different things like that. So you have to be able to think on your feet. You come in and you have a problem, you have to be quick to find a solution. But you also have to be somebody who is willing to solution. Sometimes it's not always best to just jump into action and try and make changes or make fixes if you haven't investigated the situation enough and you haven't looked at all of the possible solutions. So you have to be efficient. We only have so many hours in the day. Beer takes a while to brew, it takes a while to ferment, it takes a while to package. I always feel like we're scrambling at getting things done because everything takes so much time, and a lot of people don't realize that. So time management is a big thing. If you're late all the time or, you're losing track of things, you're a procrastinator, it's probably not going to help you being in a position like this because you have to rally the procrastinators and the people that are late. But yeah, I think just having initiative there, like I said, there's always something that needs done. If I know that we need a keg of beer and I need 3 guys on our canning line and that beer needs to get into kegs, then I know that I need to cut my administrative work early that day and help keg beer. So being flexible and being able to see those needs. A lot of the times our guys are not ever like, hey, I need help with something. I'm always trying to ask them, like, what do you need help with today? So that we know what needs to get done and move forward with that. And then getting dirty, like, that's another thing. Like, this job is, you're constantly covered in beer.
I think a lot of people have that glamorous image of this is, oh my God, you're working. Yeah. I will say to anybody that has that thought in their head after a brew day.
Yeah, you'll die. You'll die. It's gross. No, I have a hard time. I don't know. Sometimes I have a hard time with the idea of the fact that, like, I'm a chick and I need to look pretty and, this isn't the best I can do right now. I'm in yoga pants and a hoodie. But understanding that, like, looking that way does not help me do my job.
Right.
When I was in sales, I had to look put together because I was talking to clients and accounts all day.
Yeah.
This job, to have the right pair of shoes, I need to have my hair back, I need to be wearing safety glasses, I'm going to look like a dweeb and probably be really sweaty and dirty. And at the end of the day, like I haven't had a lot of jobs where that's been the situation, but I like it. I like the fact that we do hard work here. And then I have days where I'm in my office and I don't have to worry about that. But yeah, you are breaking your back some days. I think another big concern I had with this job was the physical aspect. I don't have any upper body strength. So for a while it was like, okay, I need to move these kegs. And I will, with my head down, hey, so-and-so, will you go move those kegs for me? And now it's to the point where muscle memory, I've lifted so many kegs that I can move them around. And that wasn't something that I ever thought that I would physically be capable of doing. But after a while, your body gets used to it. And we've had people that have come into work here and have tried, and they either don't like it or it's too hard for them. And at first, for me, it was a little scary. But after a while, you're like, okay, no big deal. Like, I'll move this, half barrel over. But you have to treat your body right. So drinking a lot does not help. Not sleeping. I'm only 28, but I don't go out and party because I have to, take care of my body or I won't last very long.
Right.
In this industry, it can be very demanding. And I see some guys that have been doing this for, the span of my lifetime and think, wow, like, is your body destroyed? Because I don't know. It is very, it takes a toll on you. So working out, stuff like that definitely helps, but it can be a very physically demanding job. So not for the administrative part, but for a lot of different things around the brewery, you have to get used to that as well. And I feel like that was something in my mind that was holding me back a little bit as a female. Like, am I going to be able to do this? Are they going to be making fun of me because I'm trying to move this stuff? Probably, but whatever. I'll get it someday.
Well, you'll never know until you do it.
Exactly. Yeah. Other than that, I mean, I think a big part of this was sales, and for my job, I have to be the bearer of bad news sometimes. And sometimes I have to piss people off, and sometimes it's not pretty. I've gotten a much thick past couple years where I was a very sensitive person at first, didn't want any confrontation, avoided it at all cost. And you get to a certain point where you see different people and how they react. Oh, I'm so sorry, we're out of this beer. They'll either react like, oh, okay, cool, whatever, no big deal, or they'll be really pissed off about it. And that is a very uncomfortable situation, dealing with unhappy customers. So you're the bartender, you're the brewer, you're doing all of those things yourself. You are more invested in that beer than maybe an actual server. So I sometimes, whenever I'm dealing with people with our beer, if they complain about something, it can mean a lot to you because you're like, we worked so hard to make this beer. Don't talk shit on it. But you have to deal with all those people that are not going to be happy. And so having good customer service skills can go a long way. That's why I don't really mind working with our vendors and our suppliers and our wholesalers. Most of the time, if I just kill them with kindness, they don't kill me for not having something in stock or, messing something up. But I can only imagine some people that I know that have been in situations like this where I'm like, they don't have very good customer service skills. How do they get away with that? Well, people don't like you. So if you develop a reputation, you may have a hard time moving forward.
It's hard to overcome that.
It really is. I've had in the industry, and they're not somebody that I would ever reach out to, to see if they needed, hey, we're going to be buying some hops. Do you need some extra boxes or things? So I try to treat everybody with respect and be as transparent as possible. That's another thing. If we have an issue, I don't need to lie about it. I prefer to be very honest with people about it so that, they trust you. That's people need to trust you. And I don't ever want to pull one over on anybody or lie to them about, hey, if a beer didn't work out, there's nothing wrong with dumping a beer. You need to dump that beer instead of trying to sell it. I will be completely, hey, this beer did not turn out the way that we wanted it to. We had to dump it. I'm so sorry that you pre-ordered it, and we're going to try and make another batch. But being able to convey that information the right way is really important too.
In my experience, I've learned that doing that extra step of saying, hey, we don't want to send you an inferior product that we're not comfortable with or we're not happy with, because we know you're not going to be happy with it either. I've gotten more positive feedback from accounts that have said, thank you for doing that, instead of sending something that then now they have a dog on their taps that they can't move. Yeah, I think that honesty and the transparency goes a long way, not just in this industry, in general. I think that's how you should live your life. But yeah, in this world where there's so many options, that one bad beer could potentially turn off an account to your brand completely, and they'll just go to the next brand that stops in to see them. So yeah, you're absolutely right in that respect.
Yeah, we see that all the time. I've definitely had beers from some smaller brewers choose with them, off flavors where you never, and they just need to sell the beer. If you need to sell that beer and you can't afford to dump it down the drain, then that's an issue. You need to be able to afford to dump a bad beer, and I think there are some people out there that are afraid to do that.
I agree.
You can't always make it better. You can't just throw some fruit in it or some extra hops and make that flavor go away. Having a good quality standard of quality is really important. North Country didn't always have a quality control program, and it's something that we're still developing as we learn more. But we are able to test our bacteria in our beer, so that helps me sleep at night, honestly, where if somebody, gives me a call and says, hey, we had this beer, it was kind of foamy or it tasted off, we can run it through a test and I can tell you if there was any bacteria in it. We try to taste our beer all the time. It's something that is really important. When we had to recall cans last year because our seamer wasn't working correctly, it started with drinking an oxidized beer that shouldn't have been oxidized, and that triggered us trying a lot of our beer and realizing, wow, and we didn't have a piece of equipment that would be able to tell us that it was oxidized. It was just based purely off of sensory panel. And so we got that piece of equipment to test our dissolved oxygen so we wouldn't have to deal with a situation like that before. So we've learned things and we've bettered ourselves just from having those kind of shitty experiences.
You hit the nail on the head there. I mean, you learned from it. Everybody's going to make a mistake. If you try to pass it off as something that wasn't a mistake, you guys did was absolutely the right thing to do, and you learned from it, and now you know for the future how to avoid that. And if you do, unfortunately, have it happen again, at least you're agile now. You know how to respond and make it right.
We try to never be satisfied by, just things being good or being okay. We always want to make it better. It works sometimes and sometimes it doesn't. We've had times where we're like, okay, we'll tweak this beer a little bit because we want it to be better. And then it just ends up throwing the balance off and we have to go back to it and take it back the original way. But at least we're you have to find a balance between consistency and always doing better. You want to be consistent in good quality, but then you also want to be evolving. You want to evolve your brand. You want to evolve the quality of your beer, the uniqueness of your beer, using fresher ingredients, supporting local industry as well. That's a big thing that we're looking into right now is how can we get quality ingredients from local companies. And for me, that's evolving. We can't just do the same things. It's not going to work. Our surroundings are evolving. Our environment is evolving. That was a part of our aquaponics program, urban farming. That's why we started looking into something like that. That could be the future of farming, so we wanted to learn about it. A big thing that we do here, we went to the Craft Brewers Conference. We spent a lot of time at seminars there. Our guys are constantly educating themselves, going to Brewers Association seminars as well. And you can't just keep going unless you're learning about that stuff. There's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, beers are supposed to be clear. Guess what? We evolved. Things have evolved. Things have changed. And it could always go back to a market trend of not having hazy beers. But for the time being, how they're made, take something away from it, attempt to make them. There's nothing wrong with that.
And depending on when you guys are listening to this podcast, maybe that's not even a thing anymore. Yeah. Where we sit right now, it's hard to say that'll ever be the case, but hey, you never know where it's going to happen. And yeah, that evolution is always constant. But Well, Lauren, this has been great. I think anybody that took the time to listen to our conversation today is going to walk away from this not just knowing about the production management role that you serve, but in general, this is some great information on how to operate the day-to-day operations of a brewery, or how to go through the day-to-day operations of a brewery, I should say. But to wrap things up here, I'm going to ask you a pretty straightforward question. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received about working in the beer industry?
The best piece of advice I've ever received is it's just beer. At the end of the day, it is just beer. So if somebody does not get the keg they ordered, if the beer didn't turn out correctly, if somebody doesn't like it, it's just beer. We don't have anybody's lives in our hands. It's never a whole lot of money. That's kind of the beautiful thing about it. It's just beer. It's a part of our lives. It's a part of our culture. But at the end of the day, it's really not that big of a deal if something doesn't work out.
Amen to that. Remember that next time you've got your finger on the 1 star on your Untapped app. Lauren, again, thanks a lot for coming on the show. We're going to have you back again someday.
Thanks, Jason. I appreciate it.
This session of the Breaking Brews Podcast is in the history book. Help the show find the ears of more thirsty beer enthusiasts just like you. Subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. Drop a rating and review, and share every episode on Twitter and Instagram using the hashtag BBPod. That's BBPOD. Follow Breaking Brews on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube for daily content about your favorite adult beverage, and check out breakingbrews.com/podcast for updates on the show. We'll catch you on the next session of the Breaking Brews Podcast.